You're now listening to the Cerberus Gridiron Podcast. And now your hosts, Christian and Chris, powered by Cerberus Fantasy Sports.
Let's go. Welcome to the Cerberus Gridiron Podcast. I am your host, Christian_CFS. And do we got a show for you? Man? The NFL Combine has just left us. Xavier Worthy. We're talking about speed. That boy was fast out there. But let's go on and get to it. Like, we're going to be talking about the Combine, talking about some stock up, stock downs. But let's also bring on a nice little special guest for you guys also as well. We are bringing on the special guest as in your favorite author, Mr. CEO of Burn the Playbook. How you doing, Mr. Your favorite author?
I'm doing good. Can't complain. Ready to talk some football.
Hey man, that's the best thing, man. You can talk football every day, but we get to do a spotlight right now. But yeah, let's go on and get into it. Yes, everybody, it is episode 36 in the building, 36 and counting. Gotta love it. And in the next segment, we're going to go to some CGP news. And in this segment, we're going to talk about the news that just happened recently. One prime example, we are going to mention Mr. Mike Evans is not leaving Tampa Bay anymore. So for everybody thought he was going to the Kansas City Chiefs, he is not going there, which I was hoping he was going to go there because it would have looked real good up on my fantasy team. But he's not going there. He is staying back in Tampa on a 2-year deal, $52 million. $52 million.
I always felt like he was gonna stay there. It just didn't seem right that he would go anywhere else. I'm sure he just was playing the business card and let's put it out there that we might be willing to go somewhere else just to see what Tampa will do. Tampa came correct, so he's staying home.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, I don't see, like, you spent your whole career there and you've had 1,000 yards every year since being in Tampa. Mm-hmm. Why would you leave? Like, you already got your Super Bowl.
Right.
And it's nothing. Now, if he did not have a Super Bowl, I can see him actually leaving to actually go get a ring.
Something interesting. So when he put his statement out, he said he wanted to play for a Super Bowl and he did not want to play for a rookie quarterback. Mm-hmm. With that being said, that to me means that there's a high chance that Tampa Bay keeps Baker as well. Especially with the year that they just had, I would expect them to keep Baker and maybe sign him to a 2-year, like a 2-3 year thing as well, kind of tie them together. But the fact that he said he didn't want to play for a rookie quarterback and he signed with Tampa, they've probably had discussions where it's like, yeah, we're going to try and get Baker back for another year. So that's something I thought was interesting, and I'm keeping it in mind that that's how that team will be moving, with probably Baker at the forefront of leading their team.
Okay, so would you give Baker like a 3-year deal, and then a 3-year deal with 2 years like guaranteed type of deal?
Yeah, I'd probably do something like that. I mean, probably 3 years. I mean, you could probably get him for like 3 years, $75 million or something like that, with the way that he's been bounced around, and then give him like a decent guarantee, like like 45 guaranteed or something like that. But do something similar to what Seattle did with Geno Smith. A deal similar to that. Like, I'm not breaking the bank. I probably wouldn't even break $100 million for him, but I think that's fair for, kind of how he's been bounced around. You did good last year. We didn't win it all, but you did good last year, and we want to show you we appreciate what you did last year. That's kind of how I would look at it. And then from Baker's standpoint, this is what his fifth team. Wait, Browns, Panthers, Rams, Tampa, fourth team. Yeah. So, I mean, and then there's going to be a bunch of quarterbacks coming in this year. There's other veteran quarterbacks, and the fact that Russell just got released, Russell's probably going to be the top veteran quarterback, just because he's going to be so cheap. Yeah, I think they only got to pay him the vet minimum. Because he's getting paid from Denver, so it would make sense for whatever team Russell wants to play for. If they need a quarterback, I'd be like, hey, I'll play for the vet minimum. If they need a veteran quarterback, then that's probably where he would end up. Because if you got to choose between Russell and Baker, I mean, you're going to get similar results, but Russell's just going to be way cheaper.
Yeah. But where do you see Russell going, though? Like, you think he goes to Atlanta, and then they still draft like a QB just to
in my mind, I had Steelers or Vikings.
Okay.
Just because Vikings aren't going to draft high enough to get the top quarterbacks, and so whoever they bring in is probably still going to need some time. And that organization in general is kind of in a we want to start winning stage. I think the Steelers need somebody who they feel can get them over the hump. And I think even though they're keeping Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
Yeah, they're keeping Kenny Pickett, but at the same time, you can't deny his weaknesses. And so I would bring in, they don't have to pay Kenny Pickett. I would bring in Russ as a, y'all compete for it type thing. But worst case scenario, Russ is on there for, veteran minimum, and he's your backup, and you got a really good backup. Better case scenario, he ends up beating Pickett for the job, and you got a new quarterback for the next, however many years. But that's how I would try and do it for Russ. But I mean, he really, with him being the vet minimum, going for the vet minimum and already getting paid, I can see him going anywhere. Any team that's looking for a quarterback, because they don't have to worry about the cap issues.
Yeah. Yeah, but they don't have to worry about the cap, but it's also, will Russ want to play for them too? So
right. So that's what's going to come down to, is will Russ want to play there?
That's why I said Atlanta, because they're in almost like a great situation. Like, you already got one, you're actually indoors for eight games out the year.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to worry about the rain or anything like that for at least 8 games. On top of that, you got a running game similar to how you had up in Seattle. Right. And then you also have a decent wide receiver who you can vault up to another level. And then you also got a great tight end, which we all know that Kyle Pitts is a phenomenal tight end. Just the coaches that was around ain't used him jack Dillon. You want to know who he really reminds me of? And a lot of people might daggone take heat for this. He reminds me of daggone Greg Olsen, whenever Greg Olsen left from the Bears and then went to the Panthers.
That could happen.
And the only reason why I say that is because they wasn't using him properly. But then once Greg Olsen made that flip from Chicago to Carolina, the dude vaulted. I'm talking about the dude just soared. Yeah, sometimes Kyle Pitts does that.
I mean, sometimes it's simply the matter of, you got a coordinator that don't know how to use what he got. You could be and that's why when I talk about the rookie drafts and things like that, a lot of it, even though there is the effort that needs to go into making sure that you're reviewing and evaluating talent, if you got the best running back in the world and the worst coordinator and worst system in the world, that talent's not going to really show like you want it to. Bijan was a good example last year. We thought he was going to come in and be that guy and top running back right out the gate, and they couldn't really get him going.
Nope.
So Yeah, that would definitely be a key factor. So if I'm Russell, I'm definitely thinking about the system that I'm going into because they got where. All right, so the Steelers got Luke Getsy, right, from the Bears.
Yeah.
Okay, and Greg Roman went to where did Greg Roman go to?
I think he went out west somewhere.
He went to the Chargers. Greg Roman is with the
That's
Chargers.
what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
All he did was gonna trade, go to his brother's team. Hey, we already know what type of offense. We already know you ain't gonna call plays, but just to keep you a job, we just gonna let you go, and then my brother gonna pick you up.
Which would make me think we're gonna see something similar to what we saw with like Kaepernick and everything, but I don't know.
But they gotta get a run game though.
Yeah, they definitely, and since they're not keeping Eckler, I'm wondering if they're gonna go to the workhorse format or if they're gonna try and bring in a committee because they're probably going to have to draft two guys.
Probably will. You already know how the coach is out there, Jim Harbaugh, since he was up in your system. So,
yeah.
But also another big news today. I'm talking about big time news. Thoughts on Jason Kelce retiring, hanging him up today?
Oh, so I personally think this is going to be a huge impact to Jalen Hurts' not only his fantasy career but his football career in general. A lot of people don't realize how critical the center position is to being able to do a lot of the thing. I mean, that's the person who is essentially manning the line. You know, he's got to point out the defenses and potential rush packages, and he's got to be able to see all that while getting the ball back, while getting his block. And so to do it at the level that Kelce has done it for all those years, and then have somebody else come in and do it at that same level, it's going to be an adjustment. And then the fact that they scored 17, 18 touchdowns last year off of the tush push.
Yeah.
And all that's probably going to go away because, you know, you can't just plug anybody in there to get that done. And so I wouldn't be surprised if next year that play specifically start to fail.
Okay.
It ain't going to be 100% like it was before. I think tush push next year, you're going to see a few teams stuff it.
Yeah, that's a possibility.
And so when you have, because that accounted for 17 touchdowns last year. So when you're talking about maybe a third of your offense just disappears because of that, the Eagles they're gonna look a little down next year in some aspects. It's not saying that they won't be able to bring somebody in and try and replace that talent, but I think it's going to be an adjustment. And because of the fact that they already had so many issues that they needed to work on this past year, I can see it being something that kind of shows its head during the season.
So I just did a little bit of quick little research and everything. I don't think they will have a daggone issue, to be honest with you, because with their
you don't think so?
No, I don't think so. Only reason why I'm saying that is because this offensive class is deep at wide receiver, tackle, and with that being said, there is one good position out there at the center position, which they can end up because they do have picks 22 in the first round, but they also have picks 50 and then 53 up in the second round. I don't think that they can either move up in the first round just to get their center if they want to, but then if they don't move up in the first round, they could use 50 and 53 just to move up to get their center up in the second round. So they can go with the cornerback, which is what they're going to need in Philly because people are just going down but then also they can end up moving up in the second round, like maybe up in the 40s, maybe even high 30s just to get another, just to get their center. And I'm talking about the center out of Oregon. So, which you did pretty well up in the combine.
That's not the one that no, that's a defensive player I'm thinking about. The big guy, he was 360 pounds that ran the 5.2.
Yeah.
I think he was a defensive player.
Yeah. Yeah. Most defensive players end up showing out like that.
Yeah, that boy Chop. I don't know where he gonna fall, man. That he a bit better athlete than was he faster than who was it? He was faster than somebody, faster than Nick Bosa.
Patrick Mahomes.
No, it was defensive players they were comparing him to. It was he was faster. He was faster than Bosa, and I think his shuttle run or something like that was better than like Aiden Hutchinson or something. Like he starting to look like he might be that guy on defense. So I don't know where he's gonna land, but this combine has been pretty interesting.
Yes, it has. The only reason why I brought up Patrick Mahomes was because of the one thing he tweeted out was, "Do not put my 40 time against all these guys out here." And that's all they kept doing, is just putting his 40 time against him, against all these other people. And he was like, "Hey, dang, dude, like, it ain't all about the 40. And that's what I was going down to the next thing just to talk about. What are your thoughts about them getting rid of the 40-yard dash for the offensive lineman and just having them do like a little 20-yard dash?
For O-linemen,
mm-hmm.
I honestly, for O-linemen and D-linemen, you really can get rid of it. You really only need it for offensive skill position players.
Yeah.
Like you're not gonna judge somebody based on their 40. Like if it's the best left tackle in the past 20 years, but he's got a slow 40, but he's got the best footwork, best hands, he's strong as an ox. You're not gonna be like, well, his 40 was slow, because he's not running 40 yards. He's taking a few steps. I mean, hooking somebody, getting his hands on somebody, and driving his feet. Like, you don't have to be fast for that. So for those positions, absolutely, you can get rid of it. It doesn't bear any real value for an NFL team that's evaluating for that.
Well, some of the guys were saying the reason why they wouldn't get rid of the full, they would get rid of the full 40, but then they would do like a 20-yard burst, because technically the only thing they're really caring about is the first 10 yards. Seeing how they burst off, and then it's sort of like similar to like the drill that they did with like Jason Kelce, where you got to hike the ball and then you got to pull to see how fast you can actually pull and get around. Something like that.
So that makes sense.
Because I need to see like how fast you're going to be able to explode off the ball, and then let me see how quickly, just in case I do need to take you off your positional player and then just get to the next level.
Right. Like, can you get to your blocks is what you really need to know. Can you get to your blocks? If your guy is upfield, or if you have to get around somebody, can you get around this center or guard or whatever to pull and get outside to make the block? If you're not fast enough to make the block, then you're only going to be useful for certain blocking schemes. So I could see that definitely weighing in on a decision. But beyond that, I mean, beyond the 20 yards, it's not really necessary. Because I remember last year, the one guy tore his ACL running a 40. The one offensive lineman tore his ACL running a 40.
Well, that's what's strange, is the guy tore his ACL last year, but then on top of that, last year there was like 4 to 5 guys, one right after one another, kept pulling their hamstring.
Right.
And then he was trying to figure out like what was going on. Then up on top of that, this year the same thing happened. I forgot what the guy's name was, but he ended up pulling up a little bit, and people was hoping that it was cramps. And then just like one after the other, a guy did the 40, looked good. Then the very next guy ended up cramping up and having to like walk off and get guided off and their things. Big guys I don't need to see you run 40 yards, dog.
Right. Exactly.
I just need to see you be able to get that burst, so I see what I'm working with. I'm trying to think if there's any other news that actually came about. Probably some of the franchise tags that are going to be dished out.
Yeah, so the Mike Evans, we already knew T. Higgins was being tagged last week.
Yeah, T. Higgins. Yep.
Trying to think. Jason Kelce.
L'Jarius Sneed for the Chiefs did, but
he got tagged.
they said that he got tagged, but I think they said that he can seek for like a trade if he wants to.
What about all the Kirk Cousins and Justin Fields rumors?
See, don't even go down that topic right there, because your boy over here, I'm a Justin Fields trooper. If I'm the GM of the only reason why I say that is because if I'm the GM of the Bears, yes, you got it both ways, man. So as a GM, I see why he would trade Justin Fields,
right?
Because his job can be on the line after this year if they don't end up doing good. He could end up getting fired,
right?
But if that's the case, then why the world would you keep the same coach? What has he proven to you in the 3 years that daggone he can? That like he could physically get you to the playoffs. If it's gonna be like that, then I'd rather just keep the coach, unless he gonna use that as a crutch and be like, "Hey, we had the 1.01, and we took Caleb Williams, but the coach, he ain't doing his job."
That's true. Man, you know what? So if I was the GM, I wouldn't trade Fields either. I would keep Fields. I just feel like there's so many better options of things you can do by trading back the 1.01, using your other pick for, a skill position player, fortifying the team that you already have. If you go get another quarterback again, and then let's say, like we're saying, it is Coach Eberflus is the issue. If he's the issue, he's still going to waste whatever time he got left with Caleb Williams, and so Caleb still ain't gonna be winning. Now you got to go get another coach for Caleb, and then hopefully that coach is a hit, and
hopefully
then
that coach
his
likes
development
Caleb,
starts. That's another thing, because it starts your development all over again. Like with Bryce Young, he almost lost a year essentially because of his time with Reich was so chaotic. There's no way that he came out of that a better player. Like with Canales this year, Canales is going to have to essentially come in, make sure he stabilizes his quarterback, and then tries to build him from day one, because everything from last year, the only thing was he got some game reps and got to see what game speed is like. he definitely got some good reps. But outside of that, he didn't get the benefit that a guy like CJ Stroud, and CJ outperformed his expectations by far. But even a guy like who else came in year one and started? Joe Burrow. A guy like him coming in starting year one. He came into a situation that was probably a little bit more settled, and it allowed him to be somewhat successful so that he could build a foundation to grow on. So with the Bears and where they are now, it's like, look, if Eberflus is the guy, then and it's definitely Justin Fields to make the trade. But if you're not sure if it's Fields or if it's the coach, then you might need to figure out a game plan, and I would keep Justin for one more year. That's what I would do.
Now I did see I think it was Daniel Jeremiah. He did his 2.0 mock draft, and I thought it was either Daniel Jeremiah or Bucky Brooks, one of these two.
Okay.
And whatever they did, so one, they had Caleb Williams going up in the first, but then at pick number 9, they did not go the tackle that I thought who they should have went. They ended up getting Rome Odunze from daggone Washington. Okay. And when I saw that, I was like, okay, my bad. That's not a scenario that I thought about. But getting Rome Odunze and DJ Moore up on opposite side, off gate, he has 2 stud wide receivers.
Right.
You have a decent running back, who they spent last year, and then Roshan Johnson.
Right.
Which, hint, if y'all got him out there, or you need to get him, you better try to go get him before the Caleb Williams and then Rome Odunze show gets active. And then since you also mentioned Kirk Cousins, I'm gonna say the Kirk Cousins show, that dude, he just trying to get paid again. He gonna get 2 years fully guaranteed with the Falcons, maybe. If not there, only reason why I said the Falcons is big.
Well, so I just saw a thing on Twitter where it said that his family has begun the process of moving to Atlanta.
Oh.
So I don't know if that's accurate or not, but that was a rumor. So, and everyone's been talking Kirk to Atlanta, so we could see it.
Well, the only reason why I say Kirk to Atlanta is because his old coach, both of his coaches are actually there. So like Raheem Morris, because they actually was in the building whenever they drafted him in Washington, and then also their OC was also up in the same building with Washington as well. So they already know what he can do, and it's just like he's a lot better than Desmond Ridder. I tell you that. I don't think we got any more news, but in this next segment, we are going to take it up a notch, give the people what they didn't ask for. And we're going to give y'all this 2024 NFL Combine Review, stock up, stock down. Especially for all these good players out there that did what they did. Now, I don't know about my dad going to get special guest co-hosts today, but I ain't gonna give you the names of the obvious people. But I'm gonna try to get deep pause in this nice little playbook over here, and then tell you about some people who we think that end up getting stock up, stock down. Okay, so the one guy who I'm gonna dig a little deeper down up in this nice little wishing hole. It is Ricky. Wait, hold on. Let me rephrase. Let me go back. Rewind. It is wide receiver out of Florida, Ricky Pearsall. When I mean this cat right here, he showed up, and the dude ended up ran a blazing 4.41 in the 40-yard dash. The dude leaped 42 inches in the vertical, 6th overall best, and then on top of that, in his 3-cone drill, he ran 6.64, best among all wide receivers. Then in his 20-yard shuttle, he ended up going 4.05, third best among wide receivers. And with Ricky Pearsall, he is one guy who I think had a stock up in this combine.
So where would you have him going initially? Where'd you have him going initially?
Initially, I would say early third, or let me rephrase, late second, early third.
So you're thinking now he might be a first, like high second rounder?
I'll say a high second round, like 30, 40.
And which trait in general do you think made him stand out?
Which trait?
What is the one thing that you think made him a guy that's like, oh, his stock is going to go up because of this factor?
I would say it's 2 traits really. It was also, he was 40 off gate, but then his 3-cone shuttle.
Okay.
Because based off of that, it's showing me that he can get in and then out of his routes explosively.
Okay.
And that's the one thing that you want to see as your wide receivers coming in. You want to see, like, how are they physically? And that's one thing you actually look at whenever you're actually watching the combine. Yes, the 40 is good, but then if you're playing fantasy and then you're trying to understand, like, what players you want to draft, you got to have your criteria, and then the special guest co-host asks some good questions on the key factors that you're looking at and trying to judge to see what you're trying to look at. But that's me. Everybody ain't like that. So yeah, everybody got their own philosophies, but you got to be nice in the hips.
Right. One of the that's kind of one of the things that I took away from this specific draft. Last year, we were seeing a lot of smaller guys So like they 5'9", 185-pound receivers, but they were fast and shifty. This year, a lot of the guys are bigger, and they're the bigger, faster, and they're the athletes, right? But that's the thing that's going to separate them is going to be the ones who have fluid hips, who are able to break in and out of routes quickly and get open. So those are the things that I'm going to be looking for with this group of receivers specifically. One of my players that's stock up, and to me, this player's stock up is rather significant. I wouldn't say that he was somebody that he's not necessarily going to be a first round guy, but because he was somebody who wasn't even on my radar before the combine, I feel that's only going to help his situation going into the draft. And that's Isaac Guerendo. And so Isaac Guerendo, for a lot of people, if you didn't really watch, he's the one who, as far as the RAS score, his raw athletic score, blew all the numbers out of the water. He's graded as one of the most athletic running backs that we've seen since the 90s, actually since the 80s, since 89. And so pure athleticism on its own is not necessarily enough to make you a top, running back. You got to have vision, you got to be able to block, you got to do all these things. However, it can't hurt you to be a better athlete than the competition, because when these teams start getting a little lower down into the, later in the draft, and you get to the 5th, 6th, and 7th round, those are the things that are going to start to make you stand out. So for a guy who, maybe his tape itself didn't make you feel like, oh, he's this great running back, he's the next, Todd Gurley or something like that. Him being that athletic is going to leave a mark for people. And when they get to that round, they'll be like, man, that guy really is athletic. Maybe if we get him in, certain packages, we can do a lot with him, because he hit a top speed of 24 miles per hour on the 40-yard dash. And only 2 other running backs who did it last year. The 2 running backs who did it last year within the past 2 years were Devon Achane and Keaton Mitchell. And so if you watched any of last season, those 2 guys were huge, big playmakers. They didn't need 20 carries. All they needed was that one play to break, and they're 50 yards down the field and a touchdown. So that's something that people will look for, especially if you're like, I already have one running back, but maybe I want to add a guy to give a little explosion to my offense. So that was my guy my first guy who was up, his stock was up a lot.
Okay. I like that. Since you were up in the running back area, I'm actually going to go with another running back as well. And I have to go with the Boise State running back, George Holani. And a lot of people, y'all are wondering, like, man, this dude is not lying. He's actually digging deep up in this daggone book and everything. I ain't never heard of none of these guys. So George Holani, he weighed in at 5'10", 280, and just because like his size doesn't scream like power back, the dude is a power back. He sort of reminds you of a better version of Alexander Madison whenever he came out of Boise State. But with that being said, the dude put up, he ran a 4.52 up in the 40-yard dash. His broad jump, which was 10 feet 7 inches, and then up in the bench, up in like the bench press, he ended up putting up 24 reps. So what that is showing me right there, that he's explosive, and that's what you need up in your back. But then also, he's going to be a good blocker as well. And then that's what you're looking for as guys. So he will most likely be a late round pick. Like I say 4th, 5th round pick just to pick him up. In rookie drafts, I don't even see this dude getting drafted, to be honest with you, unless he goes to a good team. And then he'll probably end up being late 2nd, early 3rd. but it's just the way he was and like he ran this year. Like I think this is one guy whose stock went up in the combine, especially when nobody really didn't know what he was doing. And based off, if people want to know, he was the fourth amongst running backs with that 24 reps up in the bench press.
So I'm going to switch gears again. I'm going to go to Dillon Hocker at tight end. And so
out of Colorado State.
So the tight end position, I mean, even last year, everyone knew that Brock Bowers was going to be the guy at tight end. And, you know, there are things that you could showcase, and there are things that coaches want to see, your ability to block, your ability to find space, and things like that. And all of that is definitely important. It was a specific highlight clip for me, for Dillon Hocker, that made me say, oh, that's got to make his stock go up. As he was running his gauntlet drill, this is where they catch a pass, turn, catch a pass, turn. He caught a pass and thought he was done and had zero time to react, turned while he still had one ball in his hand, and then one-handed the other ball. That was a level of focus grab that you want to see for somebody who's going to be going across the middle catching passes. So, you know, the Niners last year, we drafted 2 tight ends. A lot of people may not have noticed that, but we drafted 2 tight ends last year. The Packers drafted 2 tight ends last year. And so, you know, teams are prioritizing the position now. A lot of teams are realizing that you can be more creative with your formations in that way, but it only works if you have tight ends who can make the catch, who can catch the ball. If you got a guy who he's got to come off the field anytime there's a chance that he might catch the ball, it doesn't benefit you. So knowing that you have someone who's sure-handed like that is only going to make, you know, me as an offensive coordinator think I can do a lot more with him. I can put him in places and I can trust him to pull the ball in, even in contact, even if the ball is late getting there or, you know, he's not 100% out of his break yet. He'll still have the wherewithal to be able to say, get my hand out, catch it, pull it in. That to me, it was something small and quick, and it wasn't even a reflection of his entire performance. But that clip right there, I think any coach who sees that, they're going to say that's a guy I can trust with the ball in his hands.
So I'm glad you actually brought him up. And the only reason why I'm saying that he wasn't on my stock up, stock down, but you know how you got that instinct whenever you're actually just watching the actual game film, and then you just see a player just stand out of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And the game that I'm talking about the hyped game. I know everybody watched this game because they stayed up till like 2 o'clock in the morning watching this game. It was Colorado versus Colorado State.
Right.
And out of
that
nowhere,
game was so late.
And out of nowhere, this tight end came out of nowhere. And I'm like, who is this guy? And then I was like, okay, he a senior? I was like, let me go in and write his name down. Because you want to know who he reminded me of? And like I don't think people compared him to this, but he looked like a younger George Kittle whenever he was out there doing like his routes and everything. When I saw certain things he was doing, I was like, okay, this is like a younger GK.
So it's interesting. So I didn't make that necessary assessment, but I can see where you got that from watching him play. He definitely has some elements of his game that reminds me of George Kittle.
Yeah, I just knew he was, just for people out there that are in our RSO leagues, don't be taking none of these good players now. But we'll get back to the show. But for everybody that is actually watching right now, we would want to thank you for watching, but also like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to do that. We know that there's like 52% of y'all that are not liking and commenting or subscribing. So go and just hit that thumbs up and also hit that subscribe button. We greatly appreciate it over here. But I had to do it. I had to bring on my team in those Florida State Seminoles.
Oh man.
had to bring one guy on to here. But it ain't gonna be the area where everybody's thinking. Y'all thinking, oh, he about to bring up Trey Benson. Nope, can't do that, man. Everybody know about Trey Benson.
Okay.
They gonna talk about, oh, nope, he about to bring up Johnny Wilson. Nope, can't do that. I'm actually gonna go to the tight end, dog. Jaheim Bell. And the reason I'm bringing up this cat up because I watched him throughout, see him transfer from South Carolina on to Florida State. His game blossomed, but then also with his game blossoming, when he got ready for the combine, he did the exact same thing. The dude ran a 4.61 in the 40-yard dash, but the thing about his 40-yard dash, which is really interesting, his first 10-yard burst was almost nearly the exact same as daggone Nate Wiggins from daggone Clemson, which was 1.58. So you got a cornerback and a tight end that is that explosive. Things are going to be looking great. Now we just got to make sure, can he catch?
That's people out there. Thing.
And you want to know something? That's another thing that I was about to bring up too. People have been talking about his skill set whenever you actually watch the combine, seeing how he was making some of those difficult catches that he's not supposed to make. He ain't make that little catch like your guy Hocker did with like holding the football and then like catch another one like barehanded. He ain't do nothing like that, but he did make the difficult catches within the combine. And if you don't believe, just go on and go back to YouTube. You're gonna see highlights of Jaheim Bell. Go and check him out. Also check out some of his games that he played up against, and then do some deep dive research and add them to your list. Great tight end to pick up in fantasy.
All right. So moving to my next one. And this one, I don't know where he was going to go. I follow a beat reporter for the 49ers who actually had him as a late round pickup to the 49ers, but it's quarterback Joe Milton. This is another guy who, a few clips, online could sway my perspective on him. Now, those clips aren't representative of his total game. There were some accuracy issues and things like that. But when you got a guy who's got an arm like that, I mean, he launched it. And seeing him launch it that far, because I think that one of the measured throws was longer than the longest current measured NFL throw, which was is now held by Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen broke the record last year or the year before. But when you see a guy who can throw that far or farther, your thoughts are, if you've got the system and you can coach him up, we can fix the accuracy and the release and those types of things, right? So, if you're a team who maybe you're not looking for, a guy to lead your franchise this year, but maybe you're looking for a really solid backup, maybe you're looking for a year, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Those types of things are the things that are going to make you stand out. One of the things that they were saying about JJ McCarthy, who for everybody else has gone up in the rankings, for me, he really hasn't. He's, kind of the same place I had him before. But with JJ McCarthy, that was one of his struggles, is apparently he can't throw the deep ball. So you got a guy like Joe Milton who can throw it deep. He can, just lay it out there. And if you got the right receiver, a Tyreek Hill or, a Worthy out there, somebody who can burn past the DB, then just being able to throw it deep and make him go get it, that works.
See, you had to talk about my daggone QB I was about to mention, man, and then I'm gonna have to. So I'm bringing up JJ McCarthy because when I saw him at the combine, yes, we already knew he can throw the ball very accurate, but his timing is what I was looking at, which is what I expected him to do. But I think he took it to that just a little hair up to like that next notch, because of him not knowing the actual wide receivers that he was throwing to and being able to hit them right up on the dime. That's what I was looking at, and that's what most people should be looking at whenever they do have Like, yeah, you can look at their pro day and see, oh wow, they did this. They was like 65 for like 65. Man, the pro day don't mean jack diddly squat because all this is scripted. It's a showcase just to make them look good. In the combine, you're gonna have guys that you don't know how they get off the actual route tree. You don't know nothing about them whatsoever. You don't know how their hands are. You don't know how they like the ball placed. And to see him throw with the accuracy that he did. That's why I see him moving up the draft boards is because of that.
Yep, true.
But that's
true.
You got anybody else, or are you trying to go to stock down now?
I got one more guy, and that's Keon Coleman. So Keon Coleman, and he could actually make an appearance in the stock up and stock down.
Because I was going to put him up in the stock down. So you say the stock up, then I'll reverse the reason why. So
one of the things that they've started doing more of is measuring GPS speed versus just a 40 speed. So his 40 time was not that fast, which definitely hurt him. However, his GPS speed of miles per hour, what he got up to, was the fastest in his group. And so he's going to be one of those long speed guys. Is like, they can work on getting his bursts and getting him more explosive to get him out. But once he gets down the field, you're not catching him. And so depending on how he's used with his measurables, because he is a big guy, with his measurables and everything, I could see him being a guy that, as long as he can, fight for catches and make those contested catches, he could be deadly on the outside. Now, I know a lot of teams are trying to get more guys who can play inside and outside, but if you got a guy who, if you put him on the outside, he's going to keep winning for you, that's something that is worth having. So I think he did enough, and it didn't move the needle a lot because he's still gonna fall where he's gonna fall. But I could see that being something where maybe somebody who was out on him would take a second look and be like, you know what, maybe we can work something out with that.
Okay, so I'm glad because he's in my stock down. The only reason why he's in my stock down is, and like I said, everybody, like, I'm a diehard Florida State fan, but really what got me is that I really didn't expect him to run that slow in the 40 because I was like, dude, are you really this slow? I was thinking that was going to be Johnny Wilson that was going to be running like 4.6. But then y'all both did the complete opposite. But it's sort of like what you were saying is like what he also brings to his game is he brings that returnability. So that's the one thing where he might spend his first year doing kickoff return and then like punt returns until he physically gets able to get into the system. But the only reason why I got him for a stock down is because his 40 time, dog. That's the only time. That's the only reason. But that gauntlet, like whenever him actually reaching 21 miles per hour, like that's a different case. And he's physically going full speed and be able to catch everything and turn up the field. That shows a lot about what I can get you. Like I can hit him on that crossing route, and then I know for a fact, or I might be able to hit him up on that in and out, sort of like a 5-yard into like the linebackers. Oh, I'm gonna explode out, and then I know he'll be able to at least take it up the field to get like an extra like 5 to 10 more yards. But then on top of that, he is a returner as well, so he's gonna give you that ability of that return skills. So that's the one thing. Even though his 40 is 4.61, I think people like, I don't know if this is true, but I can look it up though. I think people have compared him to Larry Fisk, is like what the comps were. And I was like,
which is a good comparison.
I was like, that's not a bad comp.
Right. So my first stock down person is somebody that's actually pretty obvious, and this is stock down in my perspective, and that's Caleb Williams. Williams not doing any of the measurables, not meeting with any of the teams, and not giving his medical information. Those things, even though they weren't activities, they weren't actual things, they were impactful at the combine. Because he didn't do any of that, it makes you wonder what type of person you're going to get. Right. Like, who are you
what he's
bringing
hiding
in?
too.
Right. Because you don't want to give any of that information, and then you're waiting until your pro day. So like, is he hurt and we don't know about it? Is there something going on? Are there, shortcomings in his game that we haven't seen? And his excuse was to, just watch the film. You want to know what I do in the game, watch my game film. But
I ain't gonna lie, dog. Your game film ain't always been the greatest. So.
Right. And so that's kind of one of the things. It's like, I don't know if that's, a strong outing for him. To me, that would bring his stock down.
Yeah,
like, at least if he had met with the teams, I'd have been like, okay, he met with everybody, but he's trying to, focus, get his body right. But you didn't meet with him. You didn't do the stuff you were supposed to do, and then you withheld your medical information. Something's going on there.
And I think he did that for a reason, because I really think he's trying to do his best not to go to Chicago. I really think that's where he's trying to do, is he's trying to get Chicago just to get off that pick, so somebody else can actually jump up and get the pick, and he can go to a better landing spot.
Right.
Like if the Falcons wanted to jump up to number one, or the Vikings coming in, maybe something like that. But or maybe even Washington coming up to get him, because he's from that I think he's from the Pittsburgh or Washington, like that East Coast area.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see that happening. But also, so one guy that I'm gonna say another stock down, it is Bucky Irving out of Oregon.
Okay.
And with this, like, we know Bucky his measurables are 5'9", which is automatically right there. Like, you 5'9", so you in that cusp of that potential. But then he was at 192. But with that, he ran a 4.55. And I'm thinking, at least if you're gonna be 5'9", I need to at least have somebody that is gonna be able to run properly. But then it doesn't even help that his 40 was 4.45. His vertical jump is 29 inches, or like 29 and then a half inches. And then another thing that what we talked about also with the other candidate that we brought up from Boise State, his broad jump was 9 feet 7 inches. So that's showing me right there that he's not explosive. Or how will I be able to use this guy on the field? He might only be a third down back that I can use.
Right.
And that is not saying a lot. And if that's going to be the case, then I can take you in the 5th or 6th round right there and then just keep it going. But when I'm in the 3rd, 4th round, I'm trying to at least get that steal or that game changer, because there's a lot of running backs out there that showed up at this combine that I definitely will take highly over Bucky Irving.
Right. So my last one for stock down is going to be Dillon Johnson. And Dillon Johnson. So I have this theory for me, and this is a personal thought. It doesn't always ring true, but it's a personal thought about running backs in 40 time. You cannot be successful long term if you don't run faster than a 4.6 40. 4.6 is like 4.6 flat is like my breaking point. Like, the absolutely slowest I would ever draft in fantasy is a 4.6. Dillon Johnson ran slower than a 4.6, and so when you start to get to that 4.7 range, to me, it's like, and you could have the best vision in the world, but it just, to me, translates to you have to be in the right system where you're getting the ball enough to get enough opportunities to matter. And it's like, I don't want to take a chance on a guy who's like, you're not the greatest athlete, and then you're only getting the ball 15 times a game. So, 15 times turns into, 50 yards a week and maybe a touchdown. Like, that's not enough for me. So his stock is really down in my book. Now, he could end up in the perfect system where he's getting 20 totes a game, and they got a great O-line, and he's not getting touched until he's 2 yards down the field, and he ends up being very productive. But Just for me and my perspective, that 40 time is enough for me to move him down on my list.
Now I'm not saying he gonna be this guy, but I knew this guy rang a bell too. Now there was another guy that actually ran a 4.6 as well, and he turned out to be a good running back, and that was Mr. Le'Veon Bell out of Michigan State. So you don't think?
So you know what's funny? You said that. I don't know if you remember, but I have never been a fan of Le'Veon Bell's running style. I hated him I knew he was talented, but I just never liked his running style. It's just, I don't know. Maybe it's because it's the old way I ran the ball.
Yeah.
Right. He's a very patient runner. And so for somebody like him to, he's finding the right seam and then boom, he's gone. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do I want to take a chance on this guy being the next Le'Veon Bell though? I'm not going to say that he is,
but I'm saying like, hey, shoot, like he's like a 6-7 round pick man right now. That's like a luck of a draw. Like throw a dart at it. Like he might go undrafted. He might go undrafted based off that speed.
It's very possible that he can.
But man, that was a great show, man. That was a great show. I ain't got nothing else, man, to say, man. I just got to say,
all right.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. Any last words you would like to say, Mr. Your favorite author from Burn the Paper?
No. On my end, I mean, I'm excited about this fantasy season. I think we're going to see some cool things with the way some of these teams move. I just thought of another piece of news while we're getting ready to close too. It's funny. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you saw the rumor that the NFL is pushing to add Week 18.
Yeah, I saw that. Like
yeah,
and I was like, y'all just trying to get the money.
They are just trying to get the money. The only way I could see that being viable is if they maybe add another bye week, but I don't know how they do that.
I don't know how you would add 2 bye weeks.
I don't either. But it's like 18 weeks, that's a long season. And then you got playoffs after that.
Mm-hmm.
And if they go to 18 weeks, I think that means that they have to go back to the 2 teams make the bye week. Do you add another playoff team to it?
Yep. Add somebody in there too. Might as well. So it's trying to get more money, just going to add another person, add another team in there. But then the first team still get that bye.
That's wild. Like there's a lot that could happen there. But I know the team, the players and the teams don't want it, but it's a business at the end of the day.
Oh yeah, it is. But we would like to thank everybody for watching. We greatly appreciate it. In the famous words of our original co-host, Mr. K Camp, he is taking care of his family right now. Spread love, not hate. And that's all. And then we out. Big guys I don't need to see you run 40 yards, dog.
Right. Exactly.
I just need to see you be able to get that burst so I see what I'm working with. But I'm gonna try to get deep. Pause. See, you had to talk about my daggone QB I was about to mention, man, and then I'm gonna have to
copy my whole fucking flow, word for word, bar for bar.
Which hint, if y'all got him out there, or you need to get him, you better try to go get him before the Caleb Williams and then Romaduze show gets active. Oh, it is Ricky. Wait, hold on. Let me rephrase. Let me go back. Rewind.
Yeah, it's rewind time.
It is wide receiver out of Florida, Ricky Pearsall. I ain't gonna lie, dog. Your game film ain't always been the greatest. So.
I don't know if you remember, but I have never been a fan of Le'Veon Bell's running style. I hated him I knew he was talented, but I just never liked his running style.
What's wrong with you?
And then since you also mentioned Kirk Cousins, I'm gonna say the Kirk Cousins show. That dude, he just trying to get paid again.
Well said. Thanks for checking out another episode of Cerberus Gridiron Podcast, powered by Cerberus Fantasy Sports. Make sure you stay tuned for the next episode.